Alrighty. How are we, everybody? Good morning, good evening. How are you all? I would like to introduce you to Tosh. Hi. How you doing, Tosh?
Doing pretty good, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we're here to talk to Tosh today. He's had an incredible transformation from I won't talk to you too much about what the past was like. I'll let Tosh explain that. But he's had an incredible transformation and lost about 60 pounds now. Did it quite hit 60 yet? I know we were teetering on the edge of 59.
Yeah, I went down to 164 a couple of days ago, so that put me at 61, and then it's kind of teetered back up to 166,
Yeah,
which is I'm kind of in that transition for it. It's creeping down there. I would imagine
yeah,
by next week that it'll be securely below that,
yeah.
just the way what I've experienced in the past. So
That is amazing. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Tosh and I have been working together for I think it's about 6 months now. Um, yeah, I think it's probably just hit 6 months or so. And talk to me about what you were really struggling with uh, before we started working together, and why you reached out to me.
there was a lot of mental blocks that I had as far as making a lifestyle change with my diet. I um, just a lot of little things. Time, I felt that time was a big issue as far as being able to prep the meals and to make the changes that I needed. I just didn't have time to cook and do all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Not knowing what to do, how to do it,
Hmm.
even feeling like I really even not knowing how to cook and things like that. Not even really at times knowing what lifestyle or diet that I should go on was confusing.
Yeah.
Um, and the more that I tried and kind of looked into little, you buy a little like mini courses or something that has like meal plans and everything prepped out. The more I'd get into those, the more complicated and difficult it would seem to get, and different things like that. So I kind of built up all these little small mental blocks in my head as far as why it was so hard to make the change. And the more that I tried and attempted things, the more complicated and hard it seemed to get. So more impossible it seemed to get. I was stuck on the convenience of, just fast food or food at the cafeteria at work and just having everything prepared and not having to worry about doing it myself.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I'm curious to know what were the sort of the mini programs and things that you had tried in the past that you were then sort of finding confusing.
so I don't remember the names of them, but I know that like I go through my email and I could find some of them that just had like 30-day meal plans, and I go into those 30-day meal plans and thinking, okay, I'll meal prep my meals for the week, and they say, okay, we'll have your shopping list all available for the week, and then I go into them, and then it's like, well, it's a different meal every single day, and it's telling me I have to make a different meal every single day, and it's like I don't have time to cook a different meal every single day, and then you're looking at the shopping list, and you got all these multiple items to buy and to prep all these different meals. And that was actually even one of the challenges when a couple of years ago when I was first introduced to forks over knives, and the whole food plant-based lifestyle was I did actually go and buy like their cookbook, their book that had like 100 different recipes, but it explained how it all worked. And I kind of had even still the same hangups there was because they kind of had meal plans and different meals, and I'd look at the meals in there, and they just seemed way too complicated, way too difficult to make. And then they had like different meal for lunch and dinner and breakfast every single day, and it's like I can't be making 21 or 15 different meals a day for um, all at once, and then that'll just take way too much time. And then for some reason there was just mental blocks of making one, and I kind of got into the just stupid little things though too. It was like, okay, you're doing whole food, plant-based fruits and vegetables. Will the food even last a week? And I was like, well, if I make food for a week, it might be bad by on a Sunday, it might be bad by Wednesday. And I think I remember even at the beginning when I was asking you stuff about some of the meals, I'm like, is it will this last all week when I make this? I mean, is it still going to be good by Friday, and different things like that. So I just, just a lot of stupid little hangups like that that were constant mental blocks
Yeah,
of getting
I
started.
remember. I remember that question and you asking me, and I said, "That's what your senses are for. Like, give it the sniff test or the taste test. Like, does it smell good?
No,
Does it taste good? Well, that will tell us." I don't know. Usually, food lasts me a week if I've made it in advance too. um, talk to us about what were some of the reasons that you wanted to make this transition. What were some of the things in your health that you were really experiencing that were a struggle for you?
so it was interesting because before I'd even heard about like the whole food plant-based lifestyle, I looked at a lot of different programs or different diets out there, like the paleo diet, the keto diet, intermittent fasting, different things like that. And I it was always confusing because they always contradicted each other as far as what foods were good, what foods were bad. Is um, coconut oil good? Some say yes, some say no. When you go into the paleo diet, if I remember right, like even some of the fruits and legumes and things of that nature aren't acceptable and allowed. And some of that stuff just didn't seem to fit right with me,
Yeah.
and just didn't make sense why stuff like that would be bad.
Mhm.
You hear things like even fruit's not good for you, and it's kind of like this doesn't seem to make sense.
Mm.
And um, I went into a dermatologist, and was having some skin issues that I wanted to have looked at. It was right as COVID was starting, and it's kind of surprisingly enough. I mean, and I've been on like antibiotics for years, just for acne and things of that nature, and um, quite a bit, and significantly high dosages, and just to keep things under control. And even at that, it didn't keep things under control. And the doctor that I went to, and I hadn't been to a dermatologist in years, just kind of given up on it all. But I kind of went in, and he basically told me, he's like, look, if you want to get off the medicine and fix some of the other things, he says, the best thing that you could do is to go on a whole food plant-based diet. And he told me about that cookbook that um, or that the cookbook, the Forks Over Knives book. He told me about that. He told me to go watch the Forks Over Knives documentary and the Game Changers documentary. And he said that even him and his family went whole food plant-based several years ago. And he was telling me about the improvements that he had had and everything else like that.
Mhm.
And so I bought the book, and I actually never did watch the documentary. It's still kind of on the back of my mind of one of those things that I need to go watch. But
You tried lots
I
of them. Have you not watched either of them yet?
I haven't watched either of them yet.
I've probably watched
So
both of them at least 10 times. You've got to. You've got to. You'll love it. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Carry
yeah,
on. Um,
I'll have to put that up higher on the priority list.
yeah.
It's there. It's a little bit down lower on the list. So the book's like sitting right over there. So but I know that as I was reading through it, like the introduction and before they even got to any of the meals and they were kind of teaching how to implement it, I know it just seemed to make a lot of sense. I mean, the food that they were talking about, and obviously whole foods in their natural state and form that haven't been processed and all that stuff. I mean, it just seems to logically make sense that that's the type of food that you should be eating. And then as I looked on their website and different things like that, looking at all the different testimonials, and I went into their Facebook groups and started joining some of those groups, and you start seeing the testimonials and different foods. I mean, it just all seemed to make sense, and I knew that this was the lifestyle that I needed to be living.
Mm.
It and it was just a matter of trying to get it implemented. And I knew that with one, I mean, just a lot of different skin issues that I want to have cleared up, but there was a plethora of other issues as well, as far as energy and fatigue, a lot of pain. Like my feet, I work in production, and I am on my feet 12 hours a day. And within the first hour, like for the last several years, I just pain on the pain scale was just through the roof. I mean, I couldn't wait till break time to take my shoes off. I couldn't wait till lunchtime to take my shoes off. And then my last break, and then the second I'm off of work, I mean, a lot of times my shoes were coming off just driving home because my feet and legs hurt so bad.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. It's kind of hard to remember because a lot of the issues have kind of
Yeah.
slowly gone away. and a
Yeah.
lot of improvements as well. And so, um, the high blood pressure and just being overweight and not liking the way that I look and things of that, and just wanting to feel healthier, be healthier,
Mm.
getting my energy back was a big thing that I really was hoping to have, and still working on getting off the medicine, which has improved dramatically. I mean, I mentioned being on the antibiotics. I was taking 2 pills a day at 895 milligrams, so just under 1900 milligrams a day. And right now, I'm only taking one of those every other day. So it's basically the equivalent, maybe about 450 milligrams a day versus the 1900.
Mm.
And I'm positive that over time I'll completely get myself off of that. So, um, a lot of the changes have already been made, and a lot of them are pretty close to getting to where I want to be. So
Yeah, I remember your I think your goal when we first started working together wasn't it 50 pounds, and
it
then
was 60.
it was 60. Okay, yeah, yeah. I remember we upped it at some point.
I think
Because
we went down because we were thinking maybe for the 6 months it was going to be a little bit too high. But in the back of my mind, I still stuck with
sure.
60. And then we were losing weight so fast that I think that we upped it to 65, which we haven't quite been 6 months because we started like the first week of July. So I still have till the end of this month, first week of January to hit 6 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
So,
you've extended for another month too, so we can continue working and keep you focused on hitting that goal at the end. But um,
yes.
I like tell everyone what are the changes that have happened. Oh no, sorry. You've talked about the things that you wanted to achieve. You've talked about why it was a struggle for you to make that transition on your own. But what did you think making the transition would be like? What did you think in the back of your mind you were going to have to do in order to be able to lose this weight and improve your health and make this transition?
Well, what did I think I would have to do? Well, I guess basically exactly what I'm doing. I mean, it just mentally it was difficult. I mean, I knew that I was going to have to meal prep, and it was working 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week. I mean, to be able to come home every single night and cook food for the next day, and have meals prep for the next day, just with everything else I need to do, didn't seem logical. So I knew that I was going to have to, meal prep on Sundays and make my meals for the entire week.
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to have to learn how to cook, and learn recipes and all that kind of stuff, which also threw up, kind of big mental blocks. And that was another thing. I did take like the forks over knives cooking class, and I made it past, the first lesson of, the slicing and dicing and all that stuff, but it just seemed that even in itself seemed too complicated. And then with time, I kind of started focusing on other things, and it kind of put up one of those other mental blocks. But I knew that I was going to have to kind of at least learn to
Yeah.
cook and all that kind of stuff. But luckily for me, I've just bought a lot of different tools that I don't really have to use knives that much. When I have to dice, I just got little, I don't even know what they're called, but things that I just put the veggies in and smashes them and it dices them for me and minces them like the garlic and all those different things. And I've got um,
So you found ways,
a food.
basically. You found ways
What's that?
you've actually found ways to be able to do it rather than sitting with the problem and just
Yes.
thinking that as a reason not to take the action. You've actually found ways to be able to take the action and make it easy for yourself,
Yes.
which is
And I
fantastic.
got, I've had a food processor that sat on the shelf for probably 5 years, and I finally got that out and realized just much easier it makes it to cook some of the stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
so, and I'm still learning different things, and there's
Mhm.
learning different meals and cooking, trying new things. I mean, I still want to make some salsas that I haven't made yet, and burritos and things like that that I haven't got around to. And so it's still a learning curve for different meals and different things that I'd like to make and get better at. But I mean, I'm basically started doing those things that I knew I needed to do with the meal prepping and cooking and just sacrificing the time to make it happen.
Yeah. So I mean, you've actually made such significant change and you've changed amazingly. Like, just we've worked on the mindset and how you were thinking about things. But I want to know for you, what was the thing that had you? I remember I did a live in this group on planning. getting planned, and why we really need to think ahead in terms of our meal prep and having a plan for success basically. And I remember you put your hand up and you were like, I'm ready to change. And so what was it that had you going from this is going to be hard, I don't have the time, I can't do this, to just making that commitment and going, I want to do this, please help me.
So I think there was two major things. Was one, I think that might have been before I actually joined your coaching, because I think
Yeah,
um
that was the reason that you wanted to have a chat with me to
oh,
sign up. Yeah.
okay, yes, that's what it was. Yes, because I think that one, I felt that if I had someone holding me accountable, it would at least help get the process going and help me establish the habits that I wanted to. And I 100% would agree that that was necessary and needed, because the next part of it was in the process of making those mindset changes. Without having the accountability there, I don't know that I would have, made it through that initial first month, because I do remember, going, because on Fridays and Saturdays, I mean, it was so complicated in my head. It's like, okay, I've got, Fridays I had it broke down to where, okay, I'm gonna like spend the time of actually going through a cookbook and, figuring out what I'm gonna make. And then, you look at some of these recipes in my head and it's just like all these different things and different steps. And it's like, oh man, this just seems so complicated. It's not like macaroni and cheese or tomato, open a can of tomato soup or something like that, or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And
Yeah.
so um, there was a lot of mental resistance to that. And then even on Saturdays when I was like, okay, I figured out what I would cook for my meals on Friday, and then Saturdays I would actually go shopping. And I can remember just thinking, I've got so much stuff I need to be doing. This is the last thing that I want to be doing, and all that mental resistance. But um, some of the things that you had coached me through, as far as focusing on what it was that we actually wanted to accomplish, and how by accomplishing those things it would make the other things better. So for example, I mean, I can remember getting out of my truck, just having all the resistance as I was walking to the grocery store, thinking, crud, I should be home studying, some other stuff and doing other things. And I was like, okay, now wait a minute. Now if I, come in here and get my grocery shopping done, and do my meal prep tomorrow, eventually I'll have more time and more energy and more focus when I am studying, and I won't be having to take as many naps on the weekends, which will give me more time to study because I'll have more energy. And when I'm out doing, up in Yellowstone in the Tetons, which I love to do during the summertime, and I'll have more energy to be doing a lot of those other things. So I just started shifting my focus on the benefits of what I was looking to accomplish, instead of looking at the resistance I was experienced as far as doing those things. And I think those were probably the two biggest things that really helped me push me over that hurdle that
Mm.
I was having as far as getting started.
Yeah.
And then once after the first month, I mean, there really wasn't much resistance to, going in. I mean, the habit was there. I was already starting to see the results pretty
Mm.
quickly.
Yeah.
And once I started seeing results, it was pretty easy to keep the momentum going. And now it's to the point to where it's like anytime something, throws me off my schedule routine that might make it more difficult, the meal prep, or, take me away from the diet or something like that, like holidays or something like that, there's more resistance to wanting to go back the other way. Now, because it's like I know what that food does to me, and different things like that. And so
Yeah. And you've had challenging weekends where you've been going away for the whole weekend, and this is something big, guys. Like if any of you have come across moments where you've just got in a role with something, you're going really well, and then suddenly you've got a challenge and you can't do what you have been doing. What happens for a lot of people is they suddenly go back to old habits and they say, well, I can't keep doing this because I've got this thing happening. So like Tosh was going away for, like, you had family weekends, you had camping weekends and stuff like that. So what we did, we worked out how he could still do set himself up for success the following week. And it was such a motivator because of the results that you'd been getting, because you had been seeing the benefits to it. So rather than thinking I can't, my schedule's all been turned upside down, it's like, well, how can I? um, how can I still make this happen for the following week? So talk us about some of the things that you actually did to make sure you were still able to get your food prep done for the following week, even though you'd been away all weekend.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember some of those earlier trips earlier on because it was summertime and fall time when we kind of first started. And like I mentioned, I live 4 hours away from Yellowstone if I go up I-15, and then I live 4 hours away from the Tetons if I go, up through Idaho and then through Jackson Hole. And so those are some of my favorite places to go and travel during the summer. And usually for me, it's like, and they're usually just quick weekend trips. I normally, if I know that I have a Friday that I can get off, I'll just go up on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I usually just pack up on Thursday night after work and load everything into the truck and just do some quick grocery shopping of already prepped food. Usually, um, I don't even remember now, like milk and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and cold cereal and just stuff like that. And so now basically you just have to think about it a little bit more ahead. And it's like, okay, instead of 2 days, instead of one day to get ready, it basically became two. So instead of packing my truck up with like all my clothes and my gear, all my gear and everything that I need, I would do that on Wednesday night. And then Thursday night, I would just prep all my meals for that weekend so I had all the food prep for that weekend and didn't have to worry about, stopping and eating out or just eating all the junk and fast food and different things like that I would normally buy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on top of that, to make sure that I had time to get my meals prepped for the other week, which is another challenge because if I was coming home late on a Sunday and not having the time, um, part of it was just planning to come home just a little bit earlier and then already knowing what meals I was going to prep in advance and trying to, cook something that I would still have meals for the week that just wouldn't take as long.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember one of those days. So, I mean, it was the August trip.
Mm-hmm.
I got home way later than what I wanted to, and I didn't actually make it home to the grocery store until 7:30 that night on a Sunday night, and I still went and bought everything and stayed up a little bit later than normal and just made sure that I meal prepped it all so that I had it all ready for the week. Now it's just so much different. I mean, I used to sleep in on Friday or Saturdays and Sundays till like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's just amazing how much even things like that has changed. Because Saturdays where I don't have to get up as early, but I'm normally out of bed by 7 or 8 now, and
Yeah.
getting up and going to the gym. And I'll get up, go to the gym, and then I just immediately do my grocery shopping right after, so that I don't have to make another trip back in the afternoon. So I've got usually by 11 in the morning, 11, 12 in the morning, I've already got my gym in, my exercise in, and then I've got all my food already bought for the next week. And then Sundays, I'm waking up at 5 in the morning just to, get it all done early. And then the
Wow.
gym doesn't open till 8, but it's only open till 11. So I get up early enough to have all my food prepped early on Sunday and then still be able to make it to the gym before they close at 11. But then, I've got all that done by early Sunday morning and I'm free for the rest of the day. Well, I have a lot of other stuff I do, but I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. And
That's
so,
amazing, and previous to that, like you just didn't have the energy to be able to get up that early, and you also didn't really have the energy to do any sort of exercise, did you? You were very fatigued because of what you were eating.
and that was a big thing. I mean, I could go to the gym and work out and things like that, but I mean, energy wise, it still was tough. I mean, what was difficult quite a bit was I can remember, like, even in my early 30s and late 20s, trying to run or something like this, the back pain and knee pain was horrendous. And even hiking,
Yeah.
it was okay going uphill. I could hike and things like that. But anytime I started to go downhill, I had like significant back or knee pain going downhills. And I didn't actually start incorporating exercise into this until October. And in October, I started trail running and then mountain biking. And it was short lived because the weather here in Utah has changed drastically. And now everything's covered in snow.
Yeah.
And so by November, I shifted and started going back to the gym, so about a month and a half ago. But I remember the first time running, I was already down 45 pounds and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go trail running. And, it was uphill. Although obviously starting out was uphill all the way up and then I would, run back down, but there was zero knee pain, zero back pain. And it was just like, holy cow, I haven't been able to run. I don't even remember the last time I was able to run without any knee pain or back pain. And so it was just like, and because I was down 45 pounds, I mean, I don't know the exact distance. I mean, but there was some pretty steep climbs going up. And I think I was about a mile and a half of almost purely uphill before I'd actually get tired enough to have to stop.
Wow, yeah.
Um,
I remember some of those videos that you posted into our group of you out there in nature, doing your weekend runs and cycles and stuff. Yeah, it looked like you were really
I
having.
kind of miss that because I like getting out there. And so it's kind of sucks that the weather's gotten bad. And I went and bought cross country skis, and now we've got plenty of snow. So I might start getting out and going cross country skiing a little bit this winter. So we'll see
And
how that goes.
you mentioned the pain that you had in your, your back, your feet, your knees. Are you experiencing any of that pain now, or has that completely gone for you?
No. And so, I mean, I work on concrete floor for 12 hours a day. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think what I would consider of this normal, normal pain from a 12-hour shift,
Mm.
but it's very insignificant. I mean, it's so minimal that I don't really even think much about it. It's nothing like what I was experiencing for like the last, it was probably 5 or 6 years
Mm.
of just unreal severe pain. I remember, I mean, I would literally be going back inside the cooler at times, taking my shoes off and walking on the cooler floor
Wow.
just to try to get my feet iced up to kind of help with the pain. I don't have any of those types of issues at all. I mean, I'm not rushing home to take my shoes off. I'm not like waiting for a break to have to take my shoes off to relieve myself of the pain. I don't really notice it at all anymore.
Amazing. I think you've talked about meal prepping being one of the big things that you are nailing now. And for anyone watching, Tosh is the meal plan king in our group. Every Sunday he posts pictures of his meal plans, um, and I think it's really been motivating a lot of my other clients to stay on top of theirs as well. So thank you for that. Um, but so you've really nailed your meal planning. You've nailed your transition, obviously, and you really, I guess, moving your body more than you were as well. Is there anything else that you feel like you've really been able to turn a corner on?
Um, as far as I wouldn't say so much as far as like lifestyle with diet and things of that nature, but I've just noticed that a lot of the things that I've been learning through coaching and some of the thought patterns and different lessons that you've had throughout there, I've been able to incorporate it into other areas of my life. So I've been making changes um, in other areas that have been very helpful. Um, Even the self improvement type, like we're going over like the high five habit.
Oh, yeah.
I just finished that audio and I started it for the audio book, and I started it for a second time going through it again. I mean, just incorporating a lot of those things are that we're doing as a group are making big differences. So, I mean, it's not just the health and the food part of it, it's spilling over into other aspects of my life as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's about I guess starting with the health and that, but how can we take the same learnings and apply this to the rest of our life and really start to live the life that we want, live the life we want with the health we want with the body that we want. So what would you say was some of your or what have been some of your most powerful takeaways or lessons?
I think I kind of already touched on a couple of those. I think the whole, your, well, I didn't say it exactly like this, but I mean, it was kind of your thoughts um, create the feelings that you have, I think was one of the biggest. I mean, I've always known that, but I mean, we kind of went over some of those lessons, just realizing the thoughts that create the feelings that you have. And then, so creating the thoughts that will drive the action that you want to have was a pretty big one for me. And that was kind of going back to switching when I was having that resistance of, having to pick meals and having to go shopping and things like that, was just really switching the mindset of focusing my thoughts to create the feelings that I wanted to have, so that I would create, so it would drive me to do the actions that would accomplish the goals that I wanted to have. Was
Yeah.
definitely one of the bigger takeaways that I've had.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that and how you have changed a lot of the stuff that you're actually doing and how you're thinking about things differently as well. Um, and yeah, so what sort of yeah, is there anything else that you want to drop in? Any other? I think you've probably given us a really good summary of what you were struggling with, and you know the major things that really helped you turn this around. But is there anything else that you can think of that you haven't mentioned yet?
Um, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sure there is, but right now I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Well, why don't we say, like, if there's anybody out there watching who is struggling to make the commitment to themselves and really struggling either to make the transition or just struggling with that resistance to changing their habits, what would you say to anybody who might be in the same situation as where you were? What would be some of your big pieces of advice?
Um,
I should have prepped you on this one first.
well,
Sorry, landed it on you.
I, I know that one, I guess I say believe that it's possible. And I would say just take it step by step and work a plan out to where you can make it happen. I know for me, like I mentioned before, I mean, there's the whole reason why I joined the coaching program. I knew that having that account, someone to hold me accountable and kind of coach me through some of those mental blocks was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
And so, um, if at all possible, I would definitely say that would be beneficial. But at the same time, I think a lot of it is just trying to. I would teach them exactly what I just said a few minutes ago. Is, start to learn how to shift your thoughts to where you're focusing on the benefits and instead of all the obstacles in the way, and changing your thoughts to create the feelings that you want. That'll help you drive the action that will give you the results that you want. So I would probably walk them through that, at least kind of help them with that to the best that I could, and explain a lot of the things that I've been doing as far as meal prepping and how I manage my time and things of that nature. So
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. So yeah, this is why I talk mindset so much because everything that we think drives the emotions that we feel, which drives the actions that we take and the results that we get. So if we're not getting the results, we've got to go back to the thinking. How are we thinking about this? Where are we deciding that it's going to be hard? Where are we making it hard for ourselves? Or where are we deciding that our challenges are more important than the goals that we have, and we're stopping ourselves from taking the action and working on our challenges separately, right? So, yeah, so that's great advice there. And I like the way you said, just take it a step at a time. What is one thing that you can do today that's going to have you a step closer? And when you're at that step, when you've taken that step, you can go, okay, what's the next thing I want to take? What's the next action I want to take? Because and belief that it is possible for you as well. Yeah, a lot of the time we are more determined to believe that we can't rather than believing we can. So our beliefs are just our beliefs. They're not necessarily true, but whatever we believe, we're going to make come true. So if you want to achieve the goal, you've got to at least start with the belief that you can. Even if you don't know how to get there, just start believing that you can, and what's one small step that you can take in the right direction today. So I love that.
and that,
That's great. And
and that reminded me of
oh, yeah, yeah,
one
you
other thing, one other major issue that I had too. Something that you said that reminded me was the, and the advice that I would give is you don't have to be perfect to start.
yes,
Um, you think that, you know, it's a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, and you think, okay, so, you've got to eat only whole food, plant-based, and so you don't have to be perfect to start. I mean, I still, I didn't know like all the ins and outs of, what was compliant and what wasn't compliant. A lot of that stuff. I mean, I learned fairly quickly. In fact, even on my coaching call last Monday, I was asking about how to better read nutrition labels
Yeah,
and some things of that nature. So I mean, there's still little things here that I'm tweaking and trying to find the best ingredients and making sure that I'm completely compliant with everything. But even just know that you don't have to be perfect and be 100% whole food plant based. I mean, you can incorporate it little by little and improve little by little, but just be making those improvements every single day into the best that you possibly can
yeah, yeah. I
until
heard
you get
that.
there. So,
You started with just changing your breakfast, didn't you? And then I think did you incorporate lunch next, or was it dinner? I can't quite remember.
yeah, so I mean, it happened pretty quickly. I think, I mean, the first week, first coaching calls, I gave the commitment to not drink pop, and
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I
Yeah.
was actually drinking the very last pop on that first coaching call. I was drinking the very last pop I drank, which was on July 4th. And then because that was a Monday, I didn't have anything meal prep for that week. So I mean, I just gave up pop for that week. But then the next week, I just did breakfast. And then the week after, I did breakfast and lunch. And then after that, the week after, I just kind of went full into it, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I've been that way ever since.
Yeah, yeah. There's been were there a couple of moments where you went off track? I can't quite remember where you ate something else. Was that like Thanksgiving or something? Did you? Was that you? I can't.
I mean, there's been very few exceptions, and I just from things that I picked up in the group and coaching. I mean, I've given myself the allowance like in certain times, like for example, holidays that I'll allow myself not to be 100% compliant, but that I told myself I would eat as close to what I could possibly could, the best that I could with what was given. Um, so yeah, with Thanksgiving, I mean, I didn't really go off track much by any means. I mean, I know that there was definitely some things that I ate that wasn't 100% compliant. But like I said, I didn't. I've allowed myself some leeway in situations like that,
Yeah,
and it's like I think I've heard you say it's not what you do once in a while that matters, but what you do the majority of the time. And so, you know,
yeah. It's your daily habits.
Thanksgiving or something like that, or
Yeah,
Christmas is coming up.
yeah,
I'm going to do my best to stay as compliant as I possibly can, but I'm not going to beat myself up if I, have, an extra, slice of jello or piece, some jello or, a brownie or something, I guess. I don't know what there will be, but I just know that I'll still have my meals prepped and then, I'll get right back on track right as soon as that's done. And
mm,
the exceptions are far and few in between that what I'm doing the majority of the time I'm not going to sweat the few times that there might be a situation like that where I will eat something that's non-compliant.
yeah. And that's great advice. It's about what you do the majority of the time. It's about your habits. Your habits are going to lead to your result. It's not what you do within the exceptions. So, yeah, you don't have to be 100% perfect, and you also don't have to hit the ground running being 100% perfect either. So, yeah, just take it one step at a time. How can you make some more small improvements this week? What can I do this week? What can I do this week? Not what can't I do? What can I do this week to keep moving towards my goals? Amazing. Well, thank you, Tosh. That has been
Yeah.
wonderful talking to you. And just before we finish up, just want to remind everyone of my January kickstart that is kicking off on the 9th of January again next year, 2023. And if you do want a bit of a kick up the butt, a kickstart to into whole food plant-based eating, if you haven't quite been able to make that commitment to yourself yet, and you're finding it really confusing and struggling, this is a great program to come and join with me. You'll at least experience the benefits of eating whole food plant-based for 30 days. And it's not one of those meal plans where you have to cook every single meal, like Tosh was saying before. Oh my God, every single lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is going to be different. Not most of the meals are made in bulk, so that you're at least getting about 4 different servings from each cook. So the whole idea is to reduce cooking time over the week for you as well, reduce a lot of that sort of stress and anxiety about um, so much, a shopping list that's absolutely massive that is really hard to follow. So this can be a really great way to jump or kickstart your way into healthy, whole food based eating, whether that is to start feeling the healthy benefits or also to start losing some weight. So, if anyone would like the information for that, I've been dropping it into the group all week, but I will attach the link to this video as well. And or just reach out to me, make a comment below, and I will come and chat to you, or just send me a DM as well, and we can have a chat about it too. But for now, thank you, Tosh. It has been a pleasure chatting to you today, and I hope your story has been motivational and helpful for a lot of people out there who might be struggling. Know that it's possible for you too. You can do this, and if anyone would like to talk to me about coaching come the new year, by all means, please have a chat to me about that too. I'll have some new spaces coming up available for January. I'm not taking anyone on yet for December, but certainly for January next year. Alrighty, thank you,
You bet.
and we will see you later. All right.
See you guys.
Thank you.